How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the 33rd episode of Critically Incorrect. I'm joined today by Charlie, if you wanted to say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, so some pretty big gaming news this week. Definitely really excited to talk to you all about it. We talked about last week how there most likely wasn't going to be an episode this week unless we somehow got a state of play. And when you know it, we got a state of play. And yeah, we're going to discuss it later on in the episode. So yeah, with that being said, Charlie, what have you been playing for the last week or so?
Yeah, I've actually played a decent chunk of stuff this week. I'm just gonna have a quick look at like my Steam profile and stuff because I've played a decent amount of stuff. The Pro Mod playtest happened this week. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of like it's a game made by the people who did Battalion 1944, which is like a very COD World at War inspired shooter. This is very much like COD 4. It takes a lot of that movement system with a lot of how they do their strafe jumping and things. It's basically like a playtest, just showing off how they're going to be doing like their movement and their basic guns and that kind of thing. So I've been playing quite a bit of that the past few days. I've also dived back into PUBG of all games, just because a new map came out this week, and I really felt like giving it another go. And I've been having quite a bit of fun on that with some friends. There is the odd occasion where like it's just not fun because you'll hop into a match and it'll either be filled with hackers or a ton of people who are like max level who just never stop playing the game, so they're just really good. Um, but when you get into a game with like a bit more balanced like lobbies and a few more bots and stuff, you can have some real good fun on PUBG, and I still really do enjoy the gunplay in that. So I've been playing a bit of that. I did start up Plague Tale because that is obviously one of the free games this month on PS Plus. So I've played about an hour of that, and also started up Sniper Elite VR today just because that did come out as well this week, and that's pretty good. I only played about half an hour earlier, just hopped on it, gave it a quick go, and I've been enjoying that. But yeah, I think that's about it. I've been playing quite a bit of loads of different things this week, so I've played a lot, just not of one game.
Nice, nice. I haven't played terribly much. Like right before the state of play, I streamed like 45 minutes of a Plague Tale. So that's been pretty cool. Been enjoying that. I also played more just Dead by Daylight and normal games with friends. I think I played like 15 minutes of Oxenfree, and then I think the main game I've been playing this week is I started Chrono Trigger. So I'm like a little over an hour in that game. Really enjoying it so far. It's pretty cool. Yeah, that one definitely is gonna be a game I like slowly chip away because I looked on like how long to beat. It's like a traditional RPG, right, where it's gonna be like over 20 hours long. So yeah, I also ended up buying like a ton of games on the Steam sale like as it ended this week. Like literally like in the last 15 minutes before the sale went off, I bought a few games. I bought like for the Grand Theft Auto games because they were like $5 per, which is like normally like the cheapest you can find them. And then I bought like a bunch of indie games like Hollow Knight, which I have it on Switch, but I bought it on PC because I'd rather play it on PC. And like Firewatch and some other games like that, and like Danganronpa as well. Like a bunch of just a variety of games I was interested in playing. So yeah, we'll see if I get to that. This summer we'll see. But besides that, it's been pretty low key, honestly. But yeah. Anyways, we'll move on to the releases this week. As we said, a Plague Tale, right? That's one of the main PS Plus games, so that's for the PS5. There's also the PS4 PS Plus games, which I believe is WWE Battlegrounds, and then what's the last one as well? I forgot about
Black
that one.
Ops 4.
Black Ops 4, that's right, is the weird one. So yeah, definitely go pick that up if you forgot. That's gonna be free until the month of August. Anyways, we actually have a new release this week, Sniper Elite VR. So yeah, me and Charlie definitely, have been familiar with this title just because we're in the VR space. I just know that this game's been like in development for quite a bit of time. It's cool to see this finally out. I remember being interested in it like at least I want to say like a year and a half ago or so, but there was like no release date and like we never got one until I think just like recently or something like that. So really cool to see it's finally out. And yeah, Charlie, are you picking it up or are you interested in it?
Yeah, so I picked it up today. So I've played about half an hour of it. I haven't played too much, but from what I played, it was pretty fun. It's reviewing quite well, so I'm definitely going to be playing some more of it. It seems pretty cool so far.
Sick, that's awesome. And then the last release this week is the Watch Dogs Legion Bloodline expansion. This is like the big update that's been announced since like near the end near the end of last year when the game was coming out. So this is the story expansion that has Aiden Pierce return as well as Wrench from Watch Dogs 2. Yeah, just a big expansion. and I think there's like new modes as well possibly in it. It's like a big update for the game. So if you're into Watch Dogs Legion and just the Watch Dogs series as a whole, check that out. But yeah, with that being said, Charlie and I just got finished watching the state of play that just happened about an hour or so ago. So yeah, while we're just like fresh off the heels of that, we're gonna jump into our thoughts and impressions. So I guess just to go over this was like a 30-minute state of play that was announced earlier this week. Focus on third party and indie games. So this isn't like the big, first party kind of showcase that we're all kind of expecting, right? Most likely that will be coming in the near future. At the very end of the blog post, they did say that's coming later this summer. So rest easy. I'm sure that's coming soon. But that being said, we did get some pretty cool development on some games that were already announced, and then some new games announced. So things like Moss 2 is announced. This is one of the sequels to one of the most beloved PSVR games. Sifu got another cool gameplay trailer, but sadly got delayed to early 2022. So yeah, it's no longer coming out this year. We finally got an update on Death Stranding Director's Cut. So yeah, Kojima wasn't lying. Literally a few weeks later. I'm surprised. I honestly didn't expect that because yeah, he doesn't count as first party. So technically he could be here. And yeah, we got a new trailer for that coming out the 24th of September. And I guess we'll go into it. So Charlie, if you wanted to give like your highlights of the state of play, what you thought as a whole, and like games that stood out to you, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was really looking forward to Sifu anyway. That was the game before like it started. I was like really hoping we would get a date here. For a second I thought we were, and then they like bamboozled us and switched it to 2022 on the trailer, which I think is a really weird way to announce a delay, but either way that game looks really cool and I'm still excited for it and I just can't wait to play it. It's just a shame we have to wait a little bit longer for it. Moss 2 I think is going to be great. We didn't get a date on that one, so I imagine that's next year sometime. But I'll be looking forward to that one. I still need to go back and finish the first game because from what I played, that was a lot of fun. And then Death Stranding Director's Cut. Depending on how the pricing scheme works, I will probably pick it up because I did enjoy Death Stranding and I do want to try out the new story content and stuff. And it seems like there's a decent chunk of extra content. They didn't really show too much of the story stuff in the trailer, but as long as there's a large amount there, I'll probably dive back as long as I don't have to buy the game another time. But other than that, those were kind of the main things. Obviously, they had a big focus on Deathloop, but I kind of came out of it the same as I was going in, which is I'll be getting the game. I really like all of Arcane's stuff, so I was already super excited for it no matter what anyway. I was a little bit disappointed. They said they were going to show off a bit more of Julianne, who's like the PvP element to the game, but they literally showed nothing of her except for 2 seconds at the end of the trailer. So I hope maybe they go into a bit more depth about her soon because I kind of want to know how that all works before the game comes out because we're not that far away from the release now. But yeah, those were kind of the highlights for me.
Nice. Yeah, so about the same. Moss 2 is really cool. Definitely didn't expect that, but nice to see it anyway. Sifu Delay was funny as hell because, like, yeah, it's sad, right? Because it's getting delayed. I was like really looking forward to it. It looks like Sleeping Dogs and it looks right up my alley. But like the way they did it, it's like they were proud of it. Like they literally had like a cool animation going from 2021 to 2022, and the way it spun, like Charlie said, is like you thought they were gonna give us a month, and then they just flipped the year and they're like, nah, see you next year. Sad to see, but the new aging mechanic they showed off a bit looks really cool. So yeah, Death Stranding Director's Cut's an interesting one because I see like everyone interacting online and they're like really happy with it, and yeah, it looks cool to me. I think the melee combat that looks like a cool, interesting update. Although I was talking to Charlie about that, like the way like they showed it off, it kind of looked very similar to what's already been there. I saw like Sam do like a double kick, so he like raised both his legs and did like a complete kick on the ground, but like it doesn't look like it was doing anything crazy. And then the main thing, at least, that they kind of emphasized in this one is like there's a bunch of new gadgets and tools to use, like a catapult launcher, like the like little AI body. They teased a bit of the story content near the end, but it looks like that's not going to be a big focus in this Death Stranding Director's Cut unless they're just saving it off for like players to play. I don't know. To me personally, I'm looking forward to more of the Ghost one just because it is like a whole brand new island and setting, and yeah, it just looks like a bigger expansion to the game. This stuff looks like it's like a bunch of small little cool improvements, but nothing that I'd really want to go back to the game because I'm not going to replay it just so I can like, I don't know, pull out some new gadgets and stuff like that. The combat, that's the only one I think that like we don't have enough information on. Like the melee stuff seems really vague right now, and then like the guns definitely look like a big upgrade because there's like a shock electricity gun as well. But yeah, it was kind of weird. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not even sure if I'll pick it up yet, to be honest, just because I'm not really feeling like replaying the game. But we'll see.
It
So yeah,
is.
I honestly, yeah.
I was gonna say
Go ahead.
I will say the store page has gone up now, so they've kind of talked about the pricing scheme and stuff. So it's cheaper than Ghost is. So there's that. It's like
Nice.
44.99 British pounds, so it's probably going to be like 55-60 dollars.
Can you
And
upgrade that?
they have said there's a paid upgrade.
Okay.
I don't know how much it is because it doesn't tell me on the site because I have the disc version, but it says like if you put the disc in, you'll get like a discount. So I imagine it will be like a $10-20 upgrade, something like that. Um, it does say in the description, like for the new content, it just says expanded content, use additional weapons and vehicles, take on new enemies, and explore new locations with extra missions and mini games. Which to me sounds like the extra missions are not that big a deal. So like I think I might be like you where I'm not sure if I'll pick this up or not. Like I
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed like the game, but if there's not a ton of extra story content, I'm probably not as interested.
Yeah, that's the big thing for me. It's like I was hoping that we're gonna get some cool story content like they teased in the first trailer, but it just looks like a bunch of random fun toys to mess around with and stuff like that. That's the only thing that, like, I don't know. Like it seems like the kind of things that would be in like free updates. You know what I mean? Like cool things that they would add like post launch or something like that. I don't know. Like nothing I'd like intentionally replay the game for. But we'll see. Like yeah, it could very well just be like the way the trailer was edited and showed, right? But we'll see. And yeah, ultimately, I'd probably say that I was happy with the state of play. Definitely with like Moss 2, I was surprised about, and then I didn't even think we're gonna get Death Stranding here. So I was honestly thinking there's gonna be a bunch of games I didn't care about, and then we'd see Deathloop. But we got some pretty cool announcements here, even if Sifu sadly did get delayed. But yeah. Anyways, we'll move on. We got some smaller news stories to talk about. So, Blooper Team. So, this has been one of the teams that you probably have seen in the news. They recently came out with the Medium. And then they've been like kind of talking about their projects in the future through some interviews. Another interview came out this week, and essentially they said that they have two projects right now in development, and that they're both on a bigger scale than the Medium. So that's pretty exciting. The Medium obviously is one of the it was for that Xbox game that they showed off initially, where it was like essentially the screen was split in half, and you had two alternate like realities, right? So you'd be playing as a character, and you'd be moving both characters in the screen, but like one would be like in a completely different dimension. It was like a psychological horror game essentially. I believe that's also coming out the PlayStation platform soon, right? It's like September or something. So if you're interested in that, that's also happening. But yeah, Charlie, do you have any thoughts about their next few projects? I don't. They're not one of the rumored teams to be working on Silent Hill, are they?
Yeah, they are because they had
They are, of course, they are.
because they're doing that deal
It's like
with
everyone's working.
Konami, right? So
Okay,
the
that's
the
right.
rumor is one of the projects is Silent Hill. Um, Personally, I'm not too excited. I'm not a big fan of the Layers of Fear games. They're not really for me. And I haven't played the medium, but it didn't look that engaging to me. So whatever they work on, I'm sure it'll do well. A lot of people like their games. It's just not the kind of games that I enjoy. So they're not really. They're probably not going to be making anything that really I'm looking forward to. Maybe Silent Hill, but one of the projects is obviously going to be Layers of Fear 3. Like I think that's almost confirmed at this point. So I imagine the other thing is Silent Hill related.
I can't keep up with the Kojima and Silent Hill rumors. Like it's like so many different things going on. I just want stuff to be announced because there's like the rumor that Blooper Team's working on it, and then there's another rumor that like originally was like Sony Japan, but now that Sony Japan doesn't exist, it's just like I don't even know what's going on at this point. And then there's like a camp that still believed, obviously with like the Blue Box thing, that Kojima is still involved with Silent Hill possibly, or some sort of thing. Yeah, it's interesting. I just really want something to be announced just because it's like literally so confusing and it's like a never-ending stream of news stories. But really cool to see that they're working on two new projects and hopefully they come out well. And yeah. Anyways, EA has teased one of the newest modes that's going to be announced for Battlefield 2042. Essentially, this I believe is the one that's going to be announced at EA Play, right, Charlie?
Yeah.
The new mode. Yeah. So essentially, it's going to be kind of like what it's like. It's like a mirage of like a bunch of classic maps, right?
So yeah,
If you want to go more in detail on it.
the kind of like rumor and leak that has been going around for the past few months is that there's this mode called like Battlefield Hub. It might not be called that when it comes out, but it's basically going to be a separate mode where they will have a ton of classic maps and classic weapons and vehicles all kind of merged into one. So you could be playing on a Battlefield 3 map, but have tanks and weapons from Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 2042 all kind of in the same thing, and it wouldn't be very balanced, but like it would just be mass chaos and sandbox fun like you get in Battlefield. And it had been like a light rumor. There hadn't been any like big confirmations, but today there was an event where they were kind of talking about Battlefield and Apex. And one of the devs that is working on this mode did say that they are bringing back classic maps for this mode in particular that they're showing off at EA Play. So it seems like the leaks about this Battlefield Hub mode is, if not entirely correct, at least somewhat true, with a lot of the maps coming back. And it's going to be maps from throughout the series, so stuff from 1942 all the way through to Battlefield 5 or Battlefield 4, I guess. So yeah, I'm really excited for Battlefield anyway, but that mode also sounds really cool. It also means you don't have to have all the freaking Battlefield games installed, because I think I have like 4 and 5 installed right now. So if I'm able to uninstall those because all the weapons and stuff are in 2042, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'd be really excited if it's like a bunch of classic weapons and maps together. That'd be like ideal. Like, if you're gonna be pushing like the next generation of Battlefield, while also like giving nostalgic elements to players for like the use of old maps and guns, that'd be
And like
probably
the
like the best
crazy thing is, I
combination you
think
could have.
like Tom Henderson, who's done a lot of leaks for Battlefield and stuff, and he's usually pretty accurate. He was saying that there's like I think another 7 maps that he's heard of that are coming back, and one of those is like Operation Metro. And the thing is that
Oh
map's like
shit,
pretty chaotic anyway. But like if you can play 128 players on that, that's gonna be insane.
that's
Like I
crazy.
really hope they have the bigger player numbers on those maps.
Yeah, that's cool though. I'm looking forward to EA Play. Just probably for Battlefield alone, honestly, and maybe some Skate 4 if it's not like, prototyping footage. Like,
Mm.
that's what I'm fully expecting that we'll see with that, like similar to Mirror's Edge. But hopefully it's cool. Anyways, another news story that broke this week is Ripple Effect. So Ripple Effect is a new studio that was previously under the name of Dice LA. You probably heard of them. They're being co-managed by Respawn's Vince Zampella. I'm sure you've seen him. He's very notorious about that. I believe they recently split off, and like Vince, I think we covered this like last year. Vince split off to do his own kind of studio with Dice LA. So yeah, they kind of announced this week that Ripple Effect Studios is going to be the name, and that they're currently working on a player-inspired experience for Battlefield 2042. So yeah, essentially that this is going to be like the development team that's helping alongside it, and I imagine they'll probably work on their own games in the future as well. Yeah, pretty cool there. Do you have any thoughts on what they might do in the future past this new mode?
Yeah, so like the mode they're working on, that is the redacted one that is bringing back the
Mm-hmm.
classic map. So they're the team working on that mode. They have also said that they're in like early development on their own project. So I imagine that's why they've got the name change. As Dice LA has always been like more of a support studio. They've never worked on their own projects, but now that Vince
Mm-hmm.
is in charge, they're trying to do their own thing. So I'm really interested to see what they do. Like Dice LA have helped out on most of the Battlefield and Battlefront games over the past few years, so I'm sure they're all very talented people over there, and knowing that they might be working on one of the bigger modes in 2042 gives me hope that whatever they work on next is going to be really cool as well. So I'm definitely interested to see what happens with the studio now that they're their own thing.
Definitely, Vince is definitely a really good lead to have. So really cool
Mm.
to see what they do in the future, and that's awesome. Especially if this mode's going to be as ambitious as it sounds. Like, yeah, I can't wait to see what their like actual game will be in the future as well. So really cool stuff there. Anyways, Red Dead's getting a new update next week, so there's going to be half content and then half technical for PC players. So the content side of things is in the form of the Blood Money update. So this is essentially kind of an answer to what a lot of people have been wanting. It's not necessarily heist, but it's like multi-staged robberies. So yeah, since like the beginning of time with Red Dead Online, everyone's been wanting to go into stores and get like proper, robbing missions, right? Essentially. Yeah, just similar to GTA, kind of in a sense where you can rob and get money, and then have multi, level actual like support by Rockstar to actually have these missions and play out besides role playing. So finally, that's coming out next week. There's a new trailer for it on the PlayStation's website as well as on Rockstar's official supports. But yeah, besides that, they did also announce that PC players are going to be getting a DLS update. This one's kind of a big one because Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't necessarily like the easiest game to run on PC, obviously. So like on 4K, it really, really struggles. So with DLSS, we could be looking at a situation where you could easily get past 60 FPS with 4K, and then possibly even like into over 100 FPS, and yeah, that's pretty insane. So really cool. That's coming out on the 13th. Did you have any thoughts on that, Charlie? I know you said you might be going back and playing that, right? You
Yeah,
downloaded Red
I'm
Dead
actually
Online.
kind of excited about this one. I ended up buying online on PC during the summer sale today. It was like $10 or something, so I thought I'd give it another go because I haven't touched online since it came out originally on PC. So that was what, a year and a half, 2 years ago at this point. So I'm excited to dive back into it, especially this new update sounds pretty cool. And then the DLSS thing kind of convinced me because I remember it had a lot of performance issues when it first came out. And it
Mm-hmm.
ran, but it wasn't the most optimized thing, especially when you're trying to play it on like keyboard and mouse. So I'm hoping DLSS is going to allow me to hit way better frame rates at 1440p, which usually it is with DLSS. It does really help a lot with these kind of games. So I'm excited about that more than anything, to be honest. Just because I've been wanting to dive back in for a while because I know they have added a decent chunk since I last played. So yeah, I'll definitely be trying it out next week.
I was talking to Charlie about this. I literally uninstalled the game like a few days ago, just because it is so big. It is really cool. Yeah, really cool to see a DLSS update for sure. Since I know, like, I think, yeah, I remember like the frame rates were like a big issue, and like you'd have to like I had to look up like optimized settings just so I can get like at least over 80 to like 100 FPS. Yeah, so that'll be really really nice. I'm sure it will like probably at least like increase the frame rate by maybe, what do you think, like 40% possibly, or
It
50%
depends what
maybe
settings you
even.
have it on. Usually, if you
Mm-hmm.
like stick it on like balanced, you can usually get a decent like 20 to 30 FPS extra on top of that, and you lose too much quality. So when you go down to like the
Yeah.
performance mode, you gain a decent chunk, but that's when it starts to look pretty bad. So
Yeah. Really cool stuff there though, and yeah, next week. Anyways, we got a big news story with Ubisoft, and sadly, it's probably not the most promising. Yeah, not the most promising, really. So essentially, earlier this week, Jason reported that there is a new project that Ubisoft is starting up. They're combining, I believe, what it's Ubisoft, Quebec, and Montreal, right?
yeah,
And they're going to be kind of essentially making a Assassin's Creed hub slash live service. It's really interesting the way to put it is because it's not like really emphasizing the live service aspect. Is they're almost trying to like create one destination for Assassin's Creed going forward in the future. So when they would have like new content releases, it might not necessarily fall under the umbrella of like a new title. They would just add like a new world to this universe essentially. I guess the way they're looking at it is maybe like the hub is like what's the company, the Animus, I don't know. It's been years since I
the
played Assassin's
Animus,
Creed.
yeah,
Animus, yeah,
like
and that you'd go to like these different timelines, right? So, yeah, this is like very early in development, so it's like really hard to get like concrete thoughts because I think they're like starting it themselves. But Jason was kind of reporting on it that like even now in the early stages of this, the devs are kind of like hesitant because like obviously it's very ambitious, and ultimately, it's gonna be interesting. I think they talked about they want to update it like Fortnite in a way where like the map will like constantly be changing over time in a way. It'll be interesting. I feel like that's such a weird change because like if you think about it, like Assassin's Creed's like a huge franchise. It's like on the sale of Call of Duty. So like that's like a pretty risky gamble to have like one umbrella where you have all your content going forward. Like I feel like it's as like a publisher it'd be like much safer to just keep having these box releases, right? But having something where it's like under one app, there'd be like these big expansions of like new games, right? It's really interesting. So Charlie, what do you think about it?
yeah. I mean personally, I'm kind of interested to see where they go with it. Especially coming from like the plot angle of Assassin's Creed. Like I remember when Syndicate came out, and like the way that Animus worked in that is it was like a games console like subscription thing that people used, and then you could select which like ancestor you wanted to visit. So there's all these different timelines you go to, and like that, I in my head I imagine that's what it would eventually be like a few years down the line after it's out. They're like, here you can go to, the uh Greek like mythology area, or you can go to Japan, or you can go to England, or whatever you want to do. Which I think is really interesting. I also kind of I get the feeling that maybe they want to go down like an MMO route with it. Like it'll still be kind of like single player, but it will have like a multiplayer element to it because the multiplayer in Assassin's Creed back in the day was really fun. I used to love the multiplayer on like Assassin's Creed 3 and 4. Like it was so fun on those games. But having like a live service element to it, I think it makes sense, to be honest. With the way Ubisoft have gone recently, whether it would actually be beneficial for them, because Assassin's Creed still sells really well, like every release. So I don't know if maybe losing the yearly releases will help them. It might still be a paid game every year. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a monthly subscription thing. Who knows? But either way, I'm interested to see how this turns out. Um, I imagine this means we don't get a new Assassin's Creed game for a few years until this comes out, which personally I think is good. It's always been pretty good when they've taken breaks. Origins was really refreshing after Syndicate came out after what that 2 year gap. So I really hope that this ends up being pretty interesting when it comes out. I know a lot of people don't like Ubisoft because of obviously a lot of the things that are going on behind the scenes, but um, there's a lot of other people that work at Ubisoft, and I imagine there are a lot of people there that do enjoy making these games and want other people to enjoy them. So I'm still interested to see how it turns out, and I'll definitely keep my eyes peeled for it for sure.
Yeah, so my thoughts on this, like it's really early in development, so it's like hard to really get a
Yeah,
grasp of what's going on here. It's interesting, like I feel like it has potential for sure given the nature of Assassin's Creed, right? And you go into these different timelines. I think it's the way they worded it in their like blog post as well, because they officially commented after Jason's piece. Like it's also like it's a big thing for the series, but it's also for like the studios as well, because they're gonna be more collaborative instead of like passing the baton in a way when you're going from game to game, similar to how Call of Duty
mm,
does it. It would be kind of like all working on this one title, right? But you'd be like working on different content, and kind of being like under one umbrella. So it could work. It could work. It's definitely something you gotta like wait and see, right? So we can only comment it on as it is now. I'm open to it. Like for me, my issues with Assassin's Creed now are more of its like open world natures, right? So that wouldn't be changing, right? If anything, it'd only be getting bigger. So like, there's part of me that hesitant about that. But like, yeah, the way that Assassin's Creed is delivered, I couldn't really care less. Like, you're still gonna get Assassin's Creed at the end of the day. It could be cool. It could not be cool. I don't see any reason to like really worry about it right now, especially given the little information that we have. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to see that they're like looking into this, and it could be cool. So we'll see. It's like very early in development, so I imagine, yeah, like Charlie said, it'll be a few years. Although I feel like we'll probably at least get one more title before this is shown off. I don't know. I feel like they usually have an Assassin's Creed game at least every 2 years, so next fall they should have one according to the calendar, right? So we'll see. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Hopefully they do skip next year. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just burnt out on the series. I feel like I don't even know if I'd say burnt out. I feel like the series just isn't for me anymore. Like they target like the open world RPG aspect and those kind of players now. It's clear that the series has just completely changed from what it was in the past. Like I haven't really been into Assassin's Creed since I'd say Unity maybe. Like I liked Unity. I'd say Unity was like the last one for me, or Black Flag. I'd say. But yeah, it'll be cool to see how this develops, and yeah. Anyways, our last news story here is a big one. So we've been talking about the Switch Pro ever since the start of this podcast, really.
yeah.
And finally, it kind of got announced. It's not really a Pro model, so yeah, the Switch OLED model. That's what Nintendo's calling it. Essentially, the big development features here is it's going to have a bigger, more supportive kickstand, so you can flex it in bigger degrees than what the original flimsy one could offer. Obviously, given the name, it's going to have that OLED display, so it's going to have deeper blacks and sharper colors. If you want a good comparison to how that will look, just look up any like PS Vita comparison between like the LCD panels and the OLED. They'll give you a good kind of like idea of what's going to be going on. Besides that, nothing else really too much. Like there's like a LAN cable, which is gonna, or like a LAN port that's gonna be in the dock itself, but the dock is gonna be sold separately, so technically you don't even need the new model. It's gonna have a slightly bigger screen. I believe it's going from like 6.2 to 7 inch, so technically it's gonna be a bit bigger, although it's not terribly big, but it's a bit bigger. And really, that's about it. Like it's $50 more, coming in at $350. I don't think I'm missing anything else. It's using like the same exact chip from Nvidia. So yeah, I guess Charlie, give your thoughts on it first, and then we'll talk about what this possibly could mean about the Switch Pro, and then if this is even the Switch Pro. But yeah, coming out October 8th. Charlie, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally not going to be picking this up. mainly because it's not what I would have wanted from it. You know, I wanted a more of a pro model which would have better specs and allow for 4K and like higher frame rates and that kind of thing. Because the Switch is, I mean, it always has struggled with a lot of games, but it is really starting to get to the end of its kind of like life cycle, and you can tell when a lot of the third party stuff comes out, it just is really struggling to run. I mean, last time they showed off No More Heroes 3, that game did not look good on the Switch, which is a shame because I want to play that game, but it being on the Switch puts me off so much. But yeah, there's a few cool upgrades, like the screen obviously being a little bit bigger. There's a lot less bezel on it now, but it is still 720p, so it's gonna be an OLED panel, but obviously it's probably not gonna look that much better because it's just taking the same pixel count but increasing it onto a larger screen. You have got better speakers in handheld, but
Oh, that's
who
right.
really
Yeah.
uses the speakers? Like, you're probably gonna have headphones plugged in if you're in handheld. And then it's obviously got the better kickstand on there that's adjustable, which is pretty cool because the one on the Switch does suck. Um, so I'd say it's probably a decent upgrade for the time being if you use handheld a lot. I personally use a bit of both, but I just don't use my Switch enough to warrant. It's like a $50 upgrade over the normal one. I really think it's only worth the purchase if you don't have a Switch already, but want one that can go on the TV as well. I think if you already have a Switch, that it's just not worth it. Maybe if you have a Lite and you want to upgrade, then sure, go for it. But I think going from the normal Switch to the OLED is just kind of pointless. And even Nintendo have said that. There was a Nintendo representative came out and was just like, yeah, this if you've got a Switch already and you're not too sure, this isn't really for you. This is more for people that have a Lite and want to upgrade or just want a new Switch in general. So, but yeah, personally, I still think a Pro's coming. I don't think this is the Pro model, especially considering like the Tech Asia side of Bloomberg was pretty clear that there are new chips in development at Nvidia for Switches, and this Switch has the same chip. So it seems like there is a model of Switch that has a new chip, or at least did, because that those same leaks mentioned an OLED panel. So Jason did say it's either one of two things. This is a completely different model that wasn't leaked, or their plans changed and they're no longer doing a Pro and they just are doing this OLED model. But I think it's a lot more likely that this is a stopgap before they end up replacing the original Switch in a year's time, and they eventually have a Pro model that launches alongside Zelda, hopefully. Because I still think a Pro has to happen. There's just no way that they stick with that original chip and power set for another 3-4 years, because it's not plausible, especially with a lot of the third party stuff, unless they rely on the cloud versions of these games that have been launching.
Yeah. For me, it's like I don't know who this is for. Like, yeah, the Nintendo Reptile like light owners trying to upgrade, but like, is that really a big enough like
Yeah.
audience to warrant like a new model? Part of me is like, oh, this is gonna replace the original Switch, but it's gonna be 350. So like that never happens. There's never a time where like a refresh will come out and it's like a more expensive model. I mean, it's possible, but it feels like it's just literally a third model. Like, yeah, I think, yeah, probably a Switch Pro is still coming. It's weird because like the OLED rumors were kind of tied with the Switch Pro rumors, but I
Yeah.
guess there's like I guess now it's clear that they're both separate models, right? There's like an OLED, model, and now there's gonna be a Pro model, which the Pro model will probably have an OLED screen as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I just don't know who this is for. Like, I remember watching the video, and then when the first like upgrade they announced was like a kickstand, I'm like, what is this thing? Like, you don't start with a new
Yeah.
kickstand as like a selling point. It's like it's the weirdest thing, man. Like, it literally just looks like what I think there's like one other upgrade. It's like a 64 gigabyte size. Like, it's very weird changes that just don't really matter. So it's Nintendo being Nintendo again, just a complete wild card. I'm making it like it's funny considering the fact that like I remember everyone before E3 they're like, or during E3 they're like, oh, there's no way that Mario Rabbids 2 looks so good on like a regular Switch, and like kind of like implying that it's on running on a Pro, and then it's just like, yeah, it's
Maybe it
clearly not the
is.
case.
Maybe the Pro is still
Man,
a
maybe
thing.
they
We don't
announce a
know.
Pro somehow next
Because
year, and yeah,
I mean, like Jeff Grubb was still saying that all the
he's
rumors
heard
he has ever
2022.
heard
Yeah,
have been 2022. So
yeah,
for all we know, it's just this is like a weird. It's Nintendo being Nintendo, and like
Yeah.
he made another very clear thing, which is how many models did they make of the 3DS? They made
A
so
lot.
many. So like, it's very plausible for Nintendo to just release another Switch. So I mean, like 3DS had normal, then like XL, and then the 2DS, and then new 3DS, new 2DS. So like,
Dude,
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there's something else next year.
I remember when I was working in retail, right? And I had to describe to parents like the difference between the light and the regular version. I can't even imagine
Yeah.
having to like talk about the OLED now. Like, Jesus Christ. Nintendo just making things more complicated that don't need to happen. But yeah. Finally, we got some clarity on that. Like, it sucks that, like, because I know so many people were looking forward to the Nintendo Switch Pro for ages now, and I can't imagine you finally see that like trailer in your feed, and then you click on it, and you're just heartbroken because like everything's just not what you wanted.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's just the only people that are gonna buy this really are like new Switch owners, because like it's only a $50 increase in price if you're getting the regular Switch, and you'll get like an OLED screen and more space. But really, it's only for like those people, and then also like diehard Nintendo fans that are constantly playing on their Switch every day, right? So yeah, it's weird. Nintendo being Nintendo again, like literally a wild card. So yeah. Anyways, that's really it for this week's episode. Sadly, we couldn't get Justin on this week just because he is working as well. Yeah, sadly. So hopefully he's on next week. And yeah, with that being said, Charlie, thanks again for joining me, and I'll guess we'll see y'all next week for episode 34. Take care.
Indeed. See you later.